Number 8. Plot to kill. The former owner of a popular New Albany business called Bread and Breakfast had a deadly vendetta against her ex-boyfriend. The 29-year-old Marine Laura Buckingham was arrested in February 2016 for trying to have Bradley Sutherland murdered. At the time, she and Bradley had been arguing over who should win custody of their child. Instead of seeing the court process through, Laura decided to take things into her own hands. She scheduled a meeting with a hitman and told him that she'd pay him $3,000 to kill her baby daddy. There was something Laura didn't know though. The man she met with was an undercover detective who told Bradley all about the devious plans. The police worked with the ex-boyfriend to stage a fake murder scene. They took photographs of Bradley pretending to be dead inside an empty parking lot. With these images, the hitman went back to Laura and took the money. When Bradley first heard of his former lover's plot, he thought it was just one big joke. But after the police told him how much she was willing to pay, he was shocked that his life was worth so little to her. On February 24th, Laura was finally arrested on charges of intent to murder. Investigators first caught wind of her schemes after the woman's then-current boyfriend, Joseph Chamberlain, tipped them off. Apparently, she asked him to carry out the kill first, but he refused. A few years later, Laura was sentenced to serve 10 years probation and complete at least 500 community service hours. She took a plea deal, which lowered the charges against her. If she didn't take the deal, Laura would have spent somewhere between 8 to 30 years rotting in a prison. Number 7. Reverend Alex Orozco. The church should be a safe space for those who wish to practice religion in a community environment. It shouldn't be a place where you're taken advantage of or robbed. One priest from Short Hills, New Jersey, named Reverend Alex Orozco, did just that though. He went against everything he preached by pocketing the donations of his congregation. Specifically, Alex targeted the older women who attended his church. He lovingly referred to them as his grandmas, probably because they funded his lavish lifestyle. The young, good-looking guy used his fiery charm to bring in parishioners and their money. Alex bought everything from a giant TV, homes, vehicles. He even used the cash to get his teeth fixed at the dentist. Throughout 2013 and 2014, the Reverend apparently took over $250,000 from his crowd of admirers. He told the women sob stories about he and his family had fallen on rough times and the money just wasn't coming in. With this, his kind congregation readily opened their wallets, unaware they were being taken advantage of. From one woman alone, he took more than $25,000 after feeding her lie after lie. When the news of his actions went public, Orozco stepped down from his position and went on leave. It's unclear if he was ever charged for his crimes, but it's obvious that his professional preaching career was over. Number 6. Ezra Miller. If you're a movie fanatic, then you've definitely heard of an actor named Ezra Miller. They've starred in films like The Perks of Being a Wallflower and the Harry Potter spin-off Fantastic Beasts. Miller's been involved with projects alongside the biggest names in Hollywood, such as Emma Watson and Johnny Depp. But even with so much success in their career, Ezra's been up to some trouble. The actor has been arrested several times for a wide range of crimes. In one case, Miller was accused of robbing a home in Vermont and stealing multiple expensive bottles of alcohol. Another time, Ezra was taken into custody for allegedly sexually grooming a minor. In fall 2019, while on set for the movie Asking for It, crew members reported that Ezra was acting insane. Sometimes they'd show up to work wearing long flamboyant robes or a unicorn head, and the production team even admitted that Miller just seemed a bit scattered. During work on a series called The Stand, other actors said that Ezra would often interrupt the director in the middle of filming. Ezra also apparently spit and maniacally shrieked. Some people didn't even feel safe being around them. Then in April 2020, a viral video of Ezra choking a woman in Iceland made its rounds on the internet. The victim later went on to say that the two were just joking at first. She laughed, saying she could easily take Ezra in a fight, but it seemed like the actor took her jokes way too seriously. Before she knew it, Ezra was on top of her, screaming in her face with a hand clasping the poor girl's neck. No charges were ever pursued against Miller for this incident though. There have since been much more strange reports on the actor that have permanently tainted their professional image. In August of 2022, Ezra made a public statement declaring that they'd seek help for mental issues. Would you rather see a video of your celebrity crush choking someone, or meet them in person and find out they were extremely rude? Tell us in the comments below and hit subscribe while you're at it. Number 5. Mayor Jones. On Halloween night 2022, the mayor of Rufus, Oregon was involved in a violent road rage case. At about 8:43 that night, a small family consisting of 2 children and 2 adults was driving down the highway when they saw an SUV. The vehicle was moving erratically before quickly swerving and pulling over on the side of the road. Out of concern for the safety of the driver, the parents slowed down to see what he looked like. They wanted to be able to tell police a description of the man so they could help. When they were passing the SUV, the driver suddenly got out. He pulled a gun out and started unloading bullets at the family's car. Thankfully, no one was hurt, but it could have been a lot worse. The kids involved were only 5 and 8 years old, so this event will likely stick with them for years to come. After the incident was reported to the authorities, they soon identified the lone gunman. It was the mayor of Rufus, Doan Jones. The man typically ran the small town, which only had about 270 people living in it, so it's strange what his exact motives were during the freakout. Perhaps he thought the family was trying to run him off the road, or maybe he was under the influence of something. That's just speculation though. Jones was arrested and is being held at the Northern Oregon Regional Corrections Facility until a sentence is reached. He's been charged with attempted murder and attempted assault. It sounds like he needs to go to some anger management classes too. Number 4, Principal freed. Parents put their trust in teachers and administrators to educate their kids and keep them safe during the day. That's why it's so heartbreaking to hear when a child has been put in jeopardy because of the actions of those that are supposed to look after them. Roger Weaver Freed was a high school principal in Pennsylvania, and he failed to do his job. The 34-year-old man was arrested in the summer of 2022 for having an inappropriate relationship with a minor. Freed and said student had apparently been keeping up a sexual connection for nearly 7 years by the time they were discovered. The young boy that Roger groomed was in middle school during 2015 when he was first victimized. Now he's a young man. Over the course of his most formative years, his principal took advantage of him. Reports say that the two got closer after a family member passed away. In a time of grief, they lean on each other for support. The victim has even said that he trusted Roger as if he was a brother. At the time, the boy didn't know the man's disgusting intentions. As this brotherly relationship continued, Roger eventually started giving the boy car rides where they'd be able to talk to each other intimately. Allegedly, they weren't doing anything overtly sexual until 2017. When they started, Roger demanded that the student not tell anyone about their affair. He pressured him by saying he could lose his position at the school if the news got out. In a later interview, the young man said that he felt overwhelmingly guilty after the first time, but felt obligated to maintain intimacy. They continued to engage in these acts countless times until the relationship went public. Immediately, Roger was suspended from his position. He was released from jail after paying bail and has since been restrained to his home via an ankle monitor. On top of this, Roger has been forbidden to make contact with a young man he victimized, as well as any other minors, until a sentence has been reached. Number 3. Dr. Salata. 54-year-old Naples resident Eric Andrew Salata was charged with sexually assaulting 2 sedated patients on November 21, 2022. The doctor apparently took advantage of the helpless women while they were getting cosmetic procedures done. Dr. Salata had been practicing medicine for more than 30 years at this point in his career. One of his victims, a 51-year-old patient, told authorities that the man took advantage of her. She remembered that he gave her laughing gas at some point during the visit. While under the influence, she could clearly feel the doctor inappropriately touching her, but could only ask what he was doing. When confronted, Salata stopped before forcing more gas in her and making the woman drink a strange liquid. The patient believed it was tequila. After she took it, she quickly passed out, but while phasing in and out of consciousness, she believes she saw Salata penetrating her. Once this information was revealed, it didn't take long for another patient to come forward with a similar story. She'd gone in for a procedure at the doctor's business, Pura Vida Medical Spa, but came out as a victim of rape. Based on the stories from these two, who knows how many other women fell prey to Salata while sedated. A short while after his charges were declared, police found the deceased body of Dr. Salata. They had gone to his home to conduct a welfare check after his ankle monitor hadn't reported movement for multiple hours. When they found the man's stray boot in the woods behind his house, the body was close behind. Unable to live with the consequences of his actions, the doctor had taken his own life with a shot to the head. Near his remains, the man left suicide notes and his wedding ring. While there's likely many people who wanted him dead, police believe there was no foul play here. Sadly, justice would never be granted to the doctor's victims. Number 2. Chief O'Connor. We've all heard stories of crooked cops. Whether it's cases of police officers helping criminals or abusing their power, there's all kinds of bad officers out there, just like there's all kinds of good ones. The police chief of Tampa, Florida, kind of falls in the middle of these categories, leaning towards the side of evil, if you ask us at least. In November 12, 2022, Chief Mary O'Connor and her husband were driving around on a golf cart. Mary was not wearing a uniform or on duty, so at the time, she was just acting as a citizen. The couple were pulled over that night around 7:30 during a traffic stop. The officer who pulled them over informed the two that they were driving the vehicle on a public road without adequate tags. This whole interaction was recorded by the cop's body cam. While he tells Mary this, she sat in the passenger seat of the cart with a smug look on her face. After waiting a few moments, she then pulled out her police badge, saying that she was the police chief. As the cop took a look at the badge, she said, "I'm hoping you'll just let us go today." With this, Mary gave the officer her card and a handshake before leaving. The footage was released to the public not long after, and people were mad, to put it lightly. They were shocked that Mrs. O'Connor acted like she was above the law. The city's mayor, Jane Castor, even requested that Mary resign from her position for the blatant act of defiance, saying it was unacceptable for any public official to behave that way. With all this backlash, O'Connor apologized for her actions and stepped down from her job. Do you think this was fair for the chief? Number 1. Representative Warren. The night after Christmas in 2019, a Michigan state representative was pulled over by police on suspicion of drunk driving. The two officers who dealt with State Rep Rebecca Warren had their vehicle's dash camera on to record the incident. After crashing into a road barrier at about 11:30 that night, Warren didn't stop. She just kept driving. When the cops brought her to the side of the road to talk, it was obvious she'd been drinking. They measured her blood alcohol content, and the results came back well past the legal limit for operating a car at 0.212%. She was 3 times over the amount she should have been. Warren was arrested and charged months later for drunk driving. On May 27, 2020, a judge sentenced her to a year probation with an additional 10 days worth of community service. The representative was quick to reach out to those who voted for her after the incident. On her Facebook fan page, she admitted to making a serious mistake. She said, "I'm human and I will stumble. What I do, I strive to take responsibility and act to correct my mistakes." Even with an apology, it doesn't seem like voters were all too fond of their elected officials' actions. We say this considering the fact that she's no longer representing Michigan's 55th district. Thanks for watching this video. Do you think any of these people can ever redeem themselves? Which case was the worst? Let us know what you're thinking down in the comments, and be sure to subscribe to see more from Bad Badger.